So for those participating in this in-house retreat, you have to put up with a little maybe inconvenience of the video process, because we're also trying to share some of this with our friends out in virtual land who don't have the opportunity to participate in person. And for those who are tuning in from wherever you are, welcome to this to the retreat. It started last night, and so this morning I want to, before we get started in the meditation practice, review some important parts about the meditation practice. And as we know, the teachings of the Dhamma center on, the nature of suffering, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering. And there's two levels of suffering. There's, say, physical suffering, the actual, pains of the body and the sicknesses or diseases or broken bones and other injuries that can happen to this body, as well as the mental grief that comes along with it, or worrying or obsessing or fear of death, and so on. And then there's just the other type of mental suffering, just worrying, complaining, not being satisfied, being obsessed with various, phobias or compulsions and negative thoughts and so on. So there's both these levels of physical suffering and mental suffering. And in many ways, of course, they are related, intimately related. But essentially the real nature of suffering is in the mind, due to ignorance and due to the karmic conditionings that through the course of evolution our minds have become entangled in. More about that later, but so essentially the purifying the mind of greed, hatred, and delusion, and all of its unhealthy types of habits that keep our life in a kind of running around in circles, kind of like a dog chasing its tail, and not being content with the present moment. So most of that is, has its source within the mind, but it's not easy to catch the mind. It's not easy to really see our mind clearly, especially when it first starts to come up in terms of urges and wantings and so on. So, as I've already mentioned, the first stage of meditation is learning how to get grounded and centered in the body, because really this body is the home for the mind. And meditation practice, especially the mindfulness and vipassana meditation practice, is like going into a theater and getting a seat, a front row seat, to observe the activities of the body and mind. And we've already talked a little bit about how the body is one of the main obstacles to our meditation, in terms of the body having a lot of pains or low energy, and this affects the mind. The body affects the mind, and the mind affects the body. And basically, the meditation practice, once it's initially developed, it's really a state of awareness. Meditation in its developed state is free-flowing awareness that's not being distracted and carried away by various thoughts and distractions. It's a state of inward stability and inward tranquility and awareness. And there's the three main obstacles for meditation are hindrances. That means the things that block our ability to stay focused and to stay relaxed and stay grounded in the present moment. There's three main obstacles that are constantly trying to prevent that. And those are the physical pain, then drowsiness or sleepiness, and the opposite of too many thoughts and overactive mind. And until those three obstacles are kind of skillfully dealt with and sort of overcome, or at least weakened their power, then meditation practice is not going to succeed or go very deep. So I want to talk about these three main hindrances to the practice, because it's learning how to skillfully deal with them that it actually takes up most of the meditation practice in the beginning. People think that meditation is you sit down and you concentrate the mind and somehow it comes easy and you just enter some imagined state of out-of-the-body experience or whatever, the mind filled with light and bliss and so on. Now these things could happen, but probably not going to for most beginners. But anyway, so the hindrance of physical pain, again, there's a cause for everything. Nothing arises without a cause. And so the physical pains are what distract the mind, because we don't like pain. The mind doesn't like pain. But pain actually can be broken down into different levels. There's real strong acute pain, like all of a sudden, like a toothache welling up, or just some other stabbing, shooting pain, or some dull ache, in your bones or joints that is coming up. Or, pains that kind of really grab the mind. And then there's just unpleasant sensations, like some itchy feelings, scratchy feelings, some little, biting feelings on the skin, or other irritations that are not really painful. They're just, I don't like it. The mind's that aversion and wanting to get away from it. So these kind of pains are always coming up in the body to distract the mind, or to what I say, to pull the mind away from the present moment awareness. Actually, present moment awareness is the mind's natural state. The present moment awareness. And it's become conditioned through so many of our habits and so on. So, so the ability to observe pains and also the other lesser body irritations, because they'll have a reaction in the mind. And so actually we have to learn to observe the physical sensations, but even more importantly, to observe the mental reaction. That means the resistance to the pain. And because these things happen almost simultaneously. And you can learn to observe the pains and discomforts or sensations without sort of giving in to them, without wanting to move. And usually an urge comes up whenever you feel an irritation. There's this urge that arises to want to move, like the urge to want to lift your hand to scratch an itch, or the urge to kind of go like this because you feel something on your neck, or the urge to want to move your knee or squirm around because of some pains. So learning how to observe those urges is really one of the first stages, practices of the meditation, and that's where mindfulness is important. Because mindfulness is that mental alertness that notices these urges. An urge is the first reaction of the mind, and it's based upon sensation, and due to contact of the senses, the feelings arise, and then there's the reaction to the feelings. And that reaction will usually be in terms of an urge to move or an urge to think. But normally our mind is dull, and it's either half asleep or it's distracted by other types of thoughts, and we don't see the urges arising very clearly. And so we tend to react and move without that clear awareness. And that is what takes our mind away from our object of concentration. So learning how to observe the reactions and the irritations or pains. Usually a sharper pain will first arise as a sensation, but because we're slow in catching it, before we know it, it's a big pain, arising that really grabs our mind. But then it's harder to let go of it. So that's why mindfulness is the most important aspect of meditation practice. A lot of people think concentration. I'm going to concentrate the mind. No. It's mindfulness. It's awareness that can observe the arising of sensations, to be able to relax around them, and to develop a patience and endurance to tolerate different disturbances, and not to react or start thinking about them in different ways. And actually, concentration arises through the practice of mindfulness. It's not something you have to separately practice. But we're concentrating in the body, what I call concentrated mindfulness. So the concentration means you're holding the attention in the body, and the mindfulness is the alertness to the various sensations or other stimulations that are trying to pull us out of the body into thinking or obsessing or moving around. So the thing with the sensations is when you first notice that an itch arising or maybe some other irritation, is to try to observe that urge to want to move. And just mentally understand in your mind, or you can even make a note of urging, and try to watch the urge rather than watching the sensation. You can't do anything about the sensation, but you can do something about the urge. You can relax the urge, and you can contemplate about how, well, this sensation is not that bad. I mean, okay, but it's not going to kill me, right? A little itch, a little biting sensation. And, watch that urge to want to move, and you say, relax, relax. And talk yourself out of it, relax. Relax the muscles that you feel that are tensing up, because usually there'll be some tension arising. But normally we don't have the sharp mindfulness to see that. And then when you can relax that urge and relax the muscles around the pain, you give it a few seconds and you'll see it often changes very quickly, or it'll disappear. Because all sensations are also impermanent. That means they arise, they last a few moments, and usually they vanish, or they diminish in strength, or they morph into something else. And you observe that and continually to stay relaxed and centered, and oftentimes they'll vanish. And then you're left in that state of awareness and alert for, the next thing that comes up. But it's true that certain body pains, if that irritation then develops into a stronger pain, then meditation is not necessarily a torture chamber. A lot of people think it's a torture chamber. They told me I can't move. So we have to gradually endure the pains longer and longer. So first we try to observe those irritations with equanimity and relaxing around them, and observing the urges or other thoughts associated with it, because you might be thinking, well, if I don't itch this, I'm going to get some worse disease or some other type of things, and the mind is always trying to make mountains out of molehills, jumping to worst case scenarios, which most of the time never pans out. But it's just the mind's habit of always, wanting to obsess and worry about things. This is the function of the ego. We'll talk more about later. But anyway, so when the pains do build up, because naturally sitting in a position that you're not used to will cause pain. And all pains are not bad. Actually, pain is a signal that the energy is not flowing in the body properly, or the energy has been blocked, whether it's because you're too stiff in your joints, or the breathing is so shallow it doesn't have enough oxygenated blood and life force to deal with it. And so these pains are, a signal that, something is not functioning properly, but it doesn't mean that it's some life or death thing. But again, the mind will create that scenario as an excuse to want to move. So we have to gently develop patience and learn to tolerate the pain a little longer each time. Then if you do need to move, you mindfully move. Let's say if your foot is in the half lotus position or the full lotus position, you might mindfully, don't be in a rush, but mindfully, take a hold of your foot, lift it up, move it a little bit, put the foot down, or whatever you have to do to, maybe adjust the posture. But you do it mindfully, not in a hurry, not like you want to get rid of the pain, but just mindfully. And then, once you've changed the posture, you come back to, refocus in the present moment on the breathing body. And so you try to tolerate the pain a little longer each time. maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, several minutes. And again, while you are tolerating the pain, it may vanish altogether. And even surprise you. Oh, it's gone already. Oh, okay. And then you come back to your flow of awareness. So that's one thing, dealing with the physical for a while and then sit back down again. But especially with the urges to want to move or scratch or rub some irritations, because all the time irritations are coming on the body. Because so many microbes and other kind of bacteria, they live in and on the body, and they're always moving around, and that's what you actually feel when you're feeling various kind of prickling, itching, stinging, biting sensations. It's usually due to that. And again, most of them are not anything life-threatening or really important. And you can actually enjoy watching them, actually. Feeling these different biting, stinging, itching sensations. That's cool. Instead of you develop a mindfulness wisdom toward them. These cannot hurt me. I have a PhD. Why should I have to itch and scratch everything? Or even get disturbed by sounds? Because irritations also will come through our ears. Somebody talking, somebody making unnecessary noises, and we can see that aversion arising in the mind. So that's also a painful feeling. So anyway, so that's one thing, is the painful feelings. To observe them so that we can let go of them, and then always coming back to reconnect to the breathing and just the sitting posture. And then there's sleepiness. Actually, sleepiness is probably the worst of all the hindrances. Or drowsiness. You may not be asleep, but the mind kind of just gets drowsy and it kind of spaces out. So you can call that spacing out also. You're not really asleep, but you're not really focused in the present either. So meditation basically stops, dead in its tracks. And usually that's because the chin starts coming down. And whenever the chin starts coming down, that means you've lost your mindfulness. And also it slows down the flow of life force that connects the body to the brain, because it impedes the flow of prana, life force, energy and awareness up through the spinal column, through the neck vertebrae, to the brain. And it's similar to a water hose. If you have a water hose on and you bend the hose like that, what happens? It slows down the flow of water, right? But when you straighten out the hose, the water flows again. So the same way in meditation, that to keep the back of the head and spinal column in a straight line is probably one of the most important aspects of the meditation posture, not how you put your legs. People always ask, should I sit in a lotus posture or half lotus? Keep your back straight. Forget about your legs. That's secondary. Keeping the back straight is more important. So the first thing that happens, because we have this big head sitting up here, weighing 2 or 3 kilos, right? And the first thing that happens is gravity grabs the chin. And there's nothing underneath the chin to support it. So we have this big jaw bone and our gold crowns on our teeth, quite heavy, right? And gravity grabs the chin and starts pulling it down, because our neck muscles are not strong enough. That's why we have people doing neck exercises in the yoga to strengthen the muscles in the neck, so that you'll be able to resist that downward pull of the gravity. Because when the chin comes down, what happens next is it causes the shoulders to come forward and the shoulders to kind of come in like that. And that causes what I call the downward creep. It means gravity keeps like a sledgehammer pounding you down until some people wind up, like this and totally oblivious to it. They don't even know it because they're half asleep. So being mindful of the posture, that's one of my sort of pet peeves, or what I keep on reminding people over and over again about. Even, people are hot to want to watch the breathing. There's so much talk in the Buddhist meditation circles about concentrating on the breath. But the posture is more important in the beginning, because the breath happens through the posture. And if your posture is slouching, you're not going to have very good mindfulness of the breathing. But when you keep the posture straight and alert, then you'll be able to feel much more that flow of the breath in and out, especially feeling the sort of the movements, the expanding and contracting movements there in the center of the body. But even you can feel the air as it comes through the nostrils, then you feel that expansion of the breathing. You can't do that if you're in a slouched position. So that's why the posture, if you're aware of the posture, you'll naturally be aware of the breathing. So, and then the posture is, affects so many other things too, like the pain. So when the gravity pulls the body down, that also creates unnatural pressure on the joints, and that's what causes pain too. All this weight coming down on your vertebrae or your hip joints, all that's going to create some pain. So when you keep the body lifted up, that minimizes the pain. Not going to prevent all of it, but it will help to minimize it. So these are just things to, be aware of while you're meditating, and to have that. That's why the mindfulness is important. We're not mindful. The chin starts to come down, and people are not mindful of it. And then a little bit more and a little bit more, and it's they're not aware, or they're aware in a very vague sense, but it's not enough to exert the effort to straighten back up. So the effort to try to straighten back up, and then continue again. That's what's important, is the effort to exert, have the mindfulness, and then to apply the remedy, or to apply the antidote to these various, the hindrances. And so we mentioned physical pain and sleepiness has been two of the main hindrance. And then the third one is, too many thoughts, or what we call monkey mind. And this is the mind. It includes the whole range of thoughts. So I know some people are going to say, wait a minute, Buddha talked about 5 hindrances. Sense, desire, and ill will. Well, those are included within the category of thoughts. So, so whenever you catch your mind starting to think about something, you have to notice it. But thoughts are coming up from the unconscious mind. They're harder to notice than, let's say, pains in the body, probably. Because the mind is operating through the body. So when we're grounded in the body, you'll be able to see those initial urges or thoughts as they're starting to come up. And you can be alert to them and be aware, thinking, thoughts are arising. And then learn how to just kind of pull back or watch them. And usually when we can see the thoughts arising soon enough, it will knock the energy out of them, and they'll just vanish. Because thoughts are sort of like mice. At night when it's dark, the mice come out. When you go in the kitchen and turn on the lights, the mice or the cockroaches, they go back into the dark. So in the same way with our thoughts, because we're not mindful, the light of mindfulness is not shining in the mind, the thoughts come out to play havoc with us, or to carry us away from the present moment. But when you have that mindfulness, thinking, or urging, see that initial urge to want to move as you see it come up, then you have the ability to kind of pull back from it just a little bit and to observe it. And usually that takes the energy out of it, and it will usually just vanish or decrease enough that it's no longer a big distraction. And then keep coming back to recenter into the flow of present moment awareness. So our thoughts are similar to, let's say, like an octopus. This is a very good little example. If an octopus gets one tentacle on you without too much effort, you can peel it off and toss it. But each time the octopus gets another tentacle on you, it becomes harder and harder to get it off. Now maybe you haven't had that experience, but I'm sure you can imagine that, right? We've seen the movies, right? And when the octopus gets 6 or 7 or 8 tentacles on you, he drags you out to sea and drowns you, and then eats you. And drowning in the meditation lingo, or meditation terminology, means losing your present moment awareness and being drowning in your thoughts. Woe with me, how long is this going to last? A whole range of thoughts. He did this to me, he did that to me. And then being eaten is having a nervous breakdown, or worse. Or some people even take their own life. So like that, we have to try to be aware of our thoughts when they're first arising, when they only have one tentacle on to us, and then reflect on that or detach from it, see this is just impermanent, this is not necessary now, or see the danger in entertaining certain types of thoughts. You have to see the danger in entertaining thoughts. People get some excitement out of plotting revenge to get even with somebody that might have hurt them, right? See, people get some cheap thrills from that excitement, but actually it's a poison for meditation. And instead of cultivating negative thoughts, we can cultivate wholesome thoughts, or to apply the opposite type of thoughts. In order to remove negative thoughts, we can apply the opposite types of thoughts, such as cultivating metta or friendliness towards somebody that might be irritating. Anyway, more perhaps on that later. So, I just wanted to mention these 3 main obstacles: the physical pain, the sleepiness, and the thoughts. Because until you've been able to develop the mindfulness and the right effort to overcome them or weaken them, then it's not likely you'll develop much deeper into the meditation. So that's what I wanted to kind of just review before we get started. So now, because we've already been sitting for a little bit, we're going to just stand up for a few minutes and just do a few of those stretches, just to hopefully get the energy moving. And those of you who are at home watching, if you can find a little space to stand up where you are. Stand up straight. Just feel the standing body. Just close your eyes. Just feel the feet pressing the floor. Relax your arms at the sides. Relax the shoulders. Just mentally feel the standing body, feet pressing the floor, the arms and hands at the side. Feel where the clothing touches the skin on different places. You feel the head balanced on top. Then begin some deep, slow breathing, taking 3 or 4 seconds to slowly breathe in, filling up the whole lung from bottom to the top. Hold the air in the lungs for 2 or 3 seconds. And feel the relaxing contraction of the out breath. We combine these simple movements with that deep, slow breathing, holding each position for 2 or 3 or 4 seconds. Feeling the sensation. So on the next in-breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, arch the lower spine. On the out breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of the head. And again, in breath, palms up, straighten the arms, head back. Out breath, touch the head. Third time, and hold that upward stretch longer. Just feel the sensation. Release the fingers, the out breath, arms back to the sides. Just relax. Feel the increased sensations in your hands and fingers due to the breathing and the stretching of the fingers. Should be more sensations, being the activated life force. Just remember that you're standing. 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 Just letting your thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Just keep the feeling of the body in the front of the awareness. Then next, on an in-breath, push up on the toes while raising the arms over the head, facing the hands toward each other about 6 inches apart, and stretch. Out breath, arms back to the side, heels to the floor. Use the breathing to help lift and lower the body, like blowing up a helium balloon. Body floats up, in-breath. Out. In. Out. Relax. Just keep the mind centered in the body. Just try to feel the outline of the standing body. And next we'll come up and keep the fingers and arms straight. Keep the bicep close to your head. On the out breath, bend over the right side as far as you comfortably can. Let the other hand slide down below the knee. In breath, lift up. And 2 more times to the same side, out breath. In. Out. In. And the out breath, lower that arm. Next in breath, raise the other arm. And 3 times to the left side, out breath. In. Out. The out breath, lower that arm. Relax. Just keep feeling the whole body. Just feel the subtle pulsations or other sensations. All those sensations really are just the cells of the body vibrating, interacting, producing vibrations, sensations. that you feel is either pleasant or unpleasant. It's really just cells of the body. Okay, one last simple exercise, the head turning. On the in-breath, turn the head to the right. Concentrate into the neck vertebrae, try to look over your right shoulder. The out-breath, turning 180 degrees back to the left, to look over the left shoulder. In-breath back to the right. Out-breath left. In-breath the right. Out-breath left. Next in-breath, let the head stop in the center. Just feel the whole body. Feet pressing the floor. The arms and hands at the side. Clothing touching the skin on different places. The head balanced on top. It's sort of like the outer body, and feeling the inner body. It means the subtler sensations inside, under the skin, subtle pulsations, or tingling sensations, any little aches or pains. Just try to feel that organic aliveness of the body. A natural home for consciousness. Present moment awareness. The thoughts in the mind running around inside, but underneath all that mental wandering or resistance or agitation, silent dimension of awareness. Okay, so go ahead and mindfully come back to your sitting posture. Just a few tips on the sitting posture. Ideally, in the sitting posture, the knees should have a good contact with the floor. If the knees are lifted up off the floor, it's harder to keep your back straight because the center of gravity is thrown off. And ideally, the buttocks should be 2 or 3 inches higher than your knees. That will allow for the lower spine to more easily stay in its natural inward curve. And again, that inward curve of the lower spine is important because it supports all the weight of the upper body, which is always is coming down. So we have to exert a sort of a centripetal or opposite upward lift to the spine to help keep that gravity from pulling us down. And then another useful thing is keeping the hands raised up a little bit. Ideally, I know because of a lot of people put their hands down like this, but because it's more comfortable. But that also will pull the body forward slightly. So by keeping the hands lifted up, so they're about 1 inch below your navel, but they're not resting on your legs. It takes a little bit of extra effort to do that, but that effort will be the effort to stay awake and alert. So that helps to keep the shoulders back and to maintain the center of gravity. And as an extra little mindfulness point, if you touch the tips of your thumbs together, so it forms the shape of an egg, that will also help to keep the mind alert to the posture. Because again, in the beginning, it's important to develop posture awareness in order to have good breathing awareness. So if you lose your attention to the body, then the thumbs will be pulled apart like that. And so if you notice that during the meditation, just try to mindfully see if you can touch the thumbs back together, and that will help to keep that kind of attention to the posture in the mind's eye. Because if you don't have anything to specifically focus on, then the mind will either just go to sleep or wander in its daydreams or get easily distracted by other things. So anyway, these are just some various little tips or about ways that you can try to maintain a good posture. Just gently close the eyes. Again, just feel the weight of the body pressing the seat. Just feel where the buttocks press the cushion. Just imagine that 100 or more pounds of body pressing the buttocks on the cushion, squishing the cells together, which produce friction, vibration. That's what you're feeling actually. All that compressed muscle tissue and so on. See if you can feel the right buttock and the left buttock. And mentally feel how the legs are tucked underneath, where the feet are crossed underneath. Pressing the floor. And just feel the feet and toes, starting at your heels. Feel the heels and the arches and the toes of the feet. You should be able to feel some vibration, sensation. In the heels, arches, and toes. Feel where the socks rub on the skin of the feet, producing sensations. And just mentally remember sitting. This body grounded to the floor, here and now. And feel that the inward curve of the lower spine, the natural inward curve. It supports the weight of the upper body. And feel the hands and fingers touching. Feel the subtle pulsation, tingling sensation. The hands or fingers. Feel where the tips of the thumbs touch together. Then gently kind of lift the back or the spinal column upwards, straightening the back upwards. Imagine some space between the spinal vertebrae, so the blood and electrical currents, nerve channels can freely circulate. And feel that the head balanced on top. Try to find that center of gravity of the head and spine over the hips. Kind of just gently move the whole head and spine backwards. Gently to come close to that tipping point. We might feel you're going to tip backwards. Just back off of that a half an inch. Just mentally photograph that feeling of a straight posture, an awake posture in the mind's eye. Start to feel the outline of the posture. The buttocks and feet underneath, the arms and hands at the sides, the clothing touching the skin on different places, the head balanced on top. And feel your face, We're going to feel life force sensations on your face. Or imagine the skin stretched over the front of the skull. The forehead, the nose, the cheeks, the chin. Feel those subtle kind of stretch sensation. As though you were looking at the face from the inside. Just remember sitting. Sitting, sitting, and feel the lips touching together. The upper lip touches the lower lip. You can also feel where the mask touches the face, all the different sensations of the mask touching the face. And feel the tongue laying in the mouth, where the tongue touches any teeth. Now feel the eyes resting in the sockets, and the eyelids stretched over the eyeballs. Feel the subtle eye movement. Remember sitting, sitting, and feel the ears, the outer ears. Or maybe the hair touches the ear. The strap of the mask touches the ear. You might feel a subtle magnetized sensation around the ears. If you listen very closely, you might hear some inner sound. There's the outer sound of the heating, the inner sound, the high high-pitched, shrill vibration inside the skull. Being the brain wave vibration. Okay, now again begin some deep, slow breathing to oxygenate the blood, help stay grounded in the body. Try to take 2 or 3 or 4 seconds to slowly breathe in, expanding the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Bring the air all the way up into the upper chest. And hold the air in the lungs a few seconds to feel that subtle surge of oxygenating blood. And feel the relaxing contractions of the out breath. And try to take several deep, slow breaths like that. Cultivating this basic mindfulness of breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Again, try counting the breaths from 1 to 10. Try to develop a more precise concentration. So with the next incoming or expanding in breath, count 1. Feel the brief pause. With the out breath, also count 1. Feel the last bit of air go out of the lungs. And next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In breath, 3. Out breath, 3. In breath, 4. Out breath, 4. In breath 5. Out breath 5. In breath 6. Out breath 6. In breath 7. Out breath 7. In breath 8. Out breath 8. In breath 9. Out breath 9. In breath 10. Out breath 10. Discontinue the counting, letting the breath come back to its uncontrolled movement. Feeling the shorter or weaker sensations of the abdomen, stomach, rib cage, or chest. Just keep the attention focused there. Try to feel the sensations of the clothing rubbing against the skin. Just to remind you that you're breathing in and breathing out. Try to feel the brief pauses between the breaths. After the in-breath, there's a brief pause, maybe just a fraction of a second. And after the out-breath, a brief pause. It's important to notice the pauses. If you're aware of the pause, you'll be awake and aware of the next in or out breath. The mind usually wanders during the pause. During the pause, feel the outline of the sitting body. Straighten the posture if it's slouching. An alert body equals an alert mind. Slouching body equals a slouching mind. Try to notice how each breath is different. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. First part of the breath you might feel in the abdomen. Second or third part you might feel in the middle or upper chest. It's always changing. In sitting, out, sitting. Just cultivating, maintaining that continuous connection to the breathing body. In the present moment awareness. If any sounds take your attention, understand it as just hearing. Just sound vibrations coming and going. Stay connected to the breathing body. Be alert for thoughts moving through the back of the mind, or the thoughts trying to interrupt the present moment. Our thoughts are nothing but thought bubbles, thought vibrations, coming and going. Through breathing body awareness. Be alert for any urges that arise. The urge to move, or the urge to think. Urging, or wanting. Relax around it. The urges disappear. From time to time, come back to take a few deep, slow breaths to recenter, ground the attention in the body. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Sensations come and go. Thoughts, urges come and go. Sounds come and go. Various aches or pains, pleasant sensations come and go. Drowsiness comes and goes. These are all of just the continuous flow, flux of impermanence of the world through the body and mind. Just underneath all that pleasure or pain or mental stress or chaos or drowsiness, just a parallel dimension of the present moment of awareness, the vibration of present moment awareness. A mental space of awareness that's not touched or affected by any of the impermanence. What kind of perceptions or thoughts arise based on that sound vibration? And place your hands at the edge of your knees. And take a deep breath and stretch the head back, pull against hands against the knees, arch backwards. And lift the head up, and on the out breath, press the chin to the top of the chest. Stretch the neck vertebrae. Lift the head up level on an in-breath. And relax on the out-breath. But don't think the meditation is over. In a retreat, mindfulness never stops. we try not to let it lapse. So slowly, mindfully unfold your legs. Try to be aware of the changing sensations or the relief of discomfort. Stretch the legs out straight. And flex your toes a few times to get the circulation come back into the legs. And make some circular movements with your feet and ankles to loosen up the ankles. A few times in each direction. Okay, then mindfully stand up, do some standing awareness, and then walking. So just stand straight. Just feel the feet pressing the floor. Feel the arms and hands hanging at the side. Feel the head balanced on top of the neck. Take a few deep, slow breaths to get the blood flowing in the standing body. Before the body was sitting, now it's standing. What is the difference between the sitting posture and the standing posture? It's the difference in sensation. Standing, standing, standing. Everything else is the same. Sensations come and go. Thoughts come and go. pleasure, pain come and go. The body is just standing, standing, standing. Awareness doesn't come and go. Awareness is always there. Only the objects of awareness change. Okay, now we're going to do a session of some walking meditation around the room. So need to move the cushions sort of in a little bit, so there's at least a 2-foot corridor around the cushions. No, move it in harmony, not out to the side. Move it in. Move the cushions into the center, so we're walking around the outside of the cushions, please. Then just get yourself into an oval shape around the cushions with an equidistant between each person. So why don't you come in a little bit and just form it over so we don't have to go out around to the side there. So the walking meditation it's the same as meditation, the other meditations, except you're just aware of movements. So, but in the walking we want to make the focus of the awareness, the movement of the feet. We try to find that to coordinate the steps with the breathing, because that will also help you to stay in connection with the breathing, in order to help you to walk more slowly and mindfully, but mainly to be aware of the stepping movements of the feet. And when you breathe in, you want to lift the foot off the floor as you breathe in and swing the foot forward. On the out breath, touch the heel to the floor and then feel the pressing of the foot and toes to the floor, and the upper body moves forward a little bit. The other heel comes up. That's all on one out breath, and pause a moment and be aware of the desire to lift the foot. And then in breath, the lifting, swinging forward, or shifting forward. In breath, lifting, swinging. Out breath, touching, pressing. In breath, lifting, placing. You can use those brief mental notes to help remember the present moment. Lifting, in breath, placing the foot down, the out breath. Just keep the hands kind of holding one hand either in front or behind you in a more meditative attitude. Just keep the eyes just focused on the ground, 5 or 6 feet in front. Try to really keep the rest of the body relaxed. Just lifting, placing, lifting, placing. Just letting your thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Just feeling the walking body. You can feel the clothing touching the body on different places, even while you're walking. It's that body-centered awareness. Feel the sensations of the socks touching the skin of the feet. Now after the next step, again, just bring your feet together and stand for a second. I wanted to add something else to the walking. So we want to make like a rectangle movement around the cushions. So when you get to the corner, we want to make a full stop. In other words, just don't lackadaisical turn as you normally kind of do, but with full awareness. So come to a full stop, just for 1 second or 2 seconds, and then try to notice the intention to turn. And then slowly turn the body to a 45 degree angle, or was it 90 degree angle? 90, whatever, anyway, a right turn, right? Or a left turn. And so be aware of the 3 or 4 different movements of the feet and body in order to turn the body around, and just be aware of turning until you make that turn, and again stop. Put a pause before walking again, just to help to insert these pauses between the different activities so you don't rush. Feel the standing body. It doesn't have to be long, even just 1 or 2 seconds. And then again start the walking, lifting, placing, lifting, placing. When you hear the clap of the hands, bring your back foot up to the right one and just stop and stand. Just relax your arms at the sides. Just feel the feet pressing the floor. Just come back to the standing. The present moment of the body. Before it's walking, now it's standing. Start to feel that outline of the standing body. Straight legs over the feet. The arms and hands hanging at the side. Clothing touching the skin on different places. The head balanced on top. The different sensations on the face and head. The present moment awareness. Feel that organic aliveness in the standing body. Subtle vibration. Was there any resistance in the mind? I don't want to do this. Just relax. Relax the body, relax the mind. Just open up to the present moment. And when you hear the next clap, begin the walking again. Lifting, placing, lifting, placing, come to standing. Now, in the same way that we made a right turn the body just 90 degrees. We want to just make a full circle. Just turn the body in place in a full circle, 360 degrees. Again, just observing. Do it as slow as you can to observe all the minute little movements of coordination of your feet. You can lift the foot up, turn the body a little bit, put it down, lift it again, put it down. Constantly kind of turning the upper body, try to feel and observe as many of those sensations as you can. And just all the time, just be aware of turning, turning, turn, 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 turn. When you get turned around in the direction that you're walking, stop and stand. Just be aware of standing before the body was turning, now it's standing. Awareness. Without getting distracted, just bring the mind back to the sitting posture. The ability to bring the mind to the present moment, whatever it's doing, is one of the advanced skills in mindfulness training. To be able to seamlessly go from sitting to standing, to walking, sitting again without the mind getting distracted. Knowing that it's not the movement or the posture or the activity that's important, it's the awareness. Through which all of that activity and change comes and goes. Just take a couple of deep, slow breaths to get re-grounded in the sitting posture. What sort of perceptions or thoughts arise in the mind from that sound? Dukkha pata chani dukkha bhayapata chani bhaya sokapata chani sokha hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way may all beings live. with mindfulness and wisdom. Thus spoke the Buddha. Again, place the hands at the edge of the knees. On the next in-breath, breathing in, stretch the head back and pull the hands against the knees, arch backward. And lift the head up on an in-breath. Press the chin to the top of the chest with the out breath to stretch the neck vertebrae. And lift the chin up level on an in-breath. Relax on the out breath. Still try to keep the attention lightly connected to the body. Okay, friends, so we're coming up onto the lunch time. I wanted to give some instructions on the eating awareness. So in a retreat, especially a retreat of this nature, we try to do everything, even the ordinary things that we always do, but do them with mindfulness. So eating is a thing that we do quite frequently, but most people would eat unmindfully. That means they're doing other things while they're eating. So, especially in a retreat like this, we try to continue that present moment awareness, remembering what we're doing into even the eating. So, and for those of you who are out there in virtual land and at home, then you can also try to practice this eating awareness when you have your lunch, if you're going to have lunch a little later, in order to keep the mind, centered and the process going on. So that when you come back to meditate later on, hopefully it will be easier to get your mind to come back to the present moment. So, even when you are standing in line, waiting for the line to go down, or if you're holding your plate and utensils, you can just, feel the weight of the plate, in your hand. Be aware of your, just the standing. And as you move forward, as the line goes down, just be aware of the steps. If you smell food and the smell triggers off some thoughts, just be aware of those thoughts. They're connected with the food, whether it's desire or aversion that might arise, something you like or something you don't like. Just observe that, be aware of that. And also, you can contemplate, why do we eat food? Well, on one hand, we eat food to keep this body alive. This physical body needs coarse physical food to live. But then you can ask yourself, well, what's the purpose of living? Well, a lot of people might say a lot of different things, but from the Dhamma point of view, the purpose of this life is to make progress in developing our consciousness, or to make progress in learning how to weaken the negative forces in our mind that keep us trapped in all kinds of neurotic or unhealthy types of patterns. and so on, to help weaken the power of self-centered I, me, mind, grasping, and so on, that keeps us trapped in the web of cause and effect. But anyway, so you can reflect like that while you're standing in line. Then when you actually get the food, be aware of your arms and hands and the movements. So you're stretching out your hand to grab a hold of the spoon, and then arranging some food on the utensil and putting it on your plate. At the same time, be aware of any thoughts connected with that. And so you get the food and try to gauge how much food you may need to eat, considering that we don't eat in the evening, but also don't overeat. And then once you've gotten your food, you go to your seat, and again, just don't be in a rush, but actually when we're in the kitchen, I'm going to be chanting something, the reflection on why we eat. As I mentioned before, we take this food like a medicine to keep the pain of hunger away, or keep the problems of malnourishment away. So we eat the food for that reason. Now, a lot of people, they live to eat, but a meditator should have the viewpoint that we eat to live. So that eating is a necessity to keep the body alive, but we want to stay alive and healthy in order to practice the Dhamma. So this is kind of part of that reflection. And especially when after you put food in the mouth, try to put your hand down and just fully concentrate on the chewing. And feel the movement of the jaws as they go up and down, maybe sideways, and the teeth crunching the food, breaking it down from a solid into a more mushy or even a liquid state. And try to chew slow enough that you really feel that. You can feel actually the intention of the movements of the jaws. And if you're very alert, you can also notice the movement of the tongue. People are usually not aware of that. But the tongue is quite active during the eating process, moving the food to different teeth, depending on if you have to bite something with the front teeth. The tongue kind of moves the food up there underneath the front teeth, and you bite down, or if you're going to crunch some rice or lettuce with your back teeth, or if you have some sore teeth or anything, the tongue, we use like an extra hand to move the food to different parts of the mouth, depending on the situation. Or if you have a couple teeth missing, like I do, then you have to try to move the food to teeth where they're going to have contact. So it's very interesting to just observe that process of the chewing, even one mouthful of food. And then you get to the point of the swallowing. Then be aware of that urge to swallow, and then try to feel the muscles in the throat in swallowing the food. And you can even imagine that this food becomes our body. And try to chew the food so it's mostly kind of a mushy or liquidy state that's easier on the stomach. It's better for digestion. Actually, digestion should happen in the mouth, not the stomach. Because if you swallow whole pieces of food too quickly, then the stomach has to produce bile in order to digest the food. But the mouth also produces bile by the movement of your jaws. It secretes ptyalin, which is a digestive juice from the jaws that comes and helps to break down the food while it's still in the mouth. So when you swallow, your stomach doesn't have to work so hard to digest the food. And then pause a moment, and then be aware of the intention to get more food. Then be aware of the hand lifting up, gathering more food on your fork or spoon, bringing it to your mouth. And feel that first moment when the food touches the inside the mouth. And then mindfully put the hand down and then chew. And you just go through that process over and over. Also, while you're doing that, while you're chewing, you can just feel the body also sitting in the chair and just remind yourself, I'm eating. Because most people, when they eat, they're talking with their friends or they're trying to look at their cell phone and they're not really mindful, they're not grounded and centered. So this is the perfect opportunity. You rarely have such a good opportunity to the right conditions to do that in order to see what kind of mental training or usefulness that is. And if you're going to reach out to get something with your hand, like drink some water or get your napkin or whatever, just be aware of the arm lifting up, be aware of lifting, stretching out the hand, opening the fingers, grasping that, bringing it back, doing whatever you're going to do, putting it back, and then going back to the eating process. So like that, we just try to remain relaxed and in the present moment and take your time. A lot of people are in the habit of rushing because they're on a limited lunch break from their job or something else. They're in a hurry to get it over so they can go watch a TV program or whatever it is. So just try to be with that process. And when you're finished, and again, just pause for maybe a minute or longer afterward and just kind of feel that sensation of being satisfied with the food, or kind of full feeling. And try not to overeat, because overeating actually is a cause of drowsiness or meditation also, because the stomach has to take more energy to deal with that full stomach that can take away from the energy of the mind to stay alert and awake. So anyway, these are just suggestions that I offer to experiment with. And then when you're done eating, so again, mindfully putting your things away, cleaning up if that's your job, and then take some rest. So, or if it's nice outside, you can take a little walk, mindful walk out in the back, feeling the coolness, the vibrations of nature. Or if you're feeling tired, you can take a little rest. But whatever you're doing, always try to remind yourself, what is this body doing right now? It's either standing, or walking, or sitting, or laying down. That's what's called the 4 postures mindfulness. And of course, in between that, there are other movements that you make with your arms or your head. And just try to be aware of that. Like if you're going to turn the head, be aware of turning. Or if you're going to look up, be aware of looking. Actually, if you're focusing on something, actually be aware of looking. We're hardly ever aware of looking because we're looking at an object, so we're engrossed in the object. Instead, be fascinated with the looking itself. That means the energy that's going from your eye to the object. Don't be so engrossed with the object, but actually try to see the awareness itself. There's a contact being made, the vibration of the object with your eye, and that's awareness. And you can actually see that if you're relaxed and focused. So anyway, again, these are just things to be aware of. And then be aware of the bell or set your alarm clock if you Did everybody hear that gong this morning? Those who are staying here. Okay, so, but sometimes somebody might forget to ring the gong, so it's good to maybe have your little timer set, for about 1:30 or so, and about 1:45 we'll try to meet back in here. So hopefully a gong will go off, but before 1:45, maybe 1:40 or so, and or 1:35 to come back down. So does anybody of you have any questions about any of that, the lunchtime program? Okay, so go ahead and slowly stand up. Do a short standing before moving off. And for those who are tuning in out there in virtual land, we'll come back if you're be giving a Dhamma talk at about 1:45 and continuing meditation after that. Okay, just wait in that little room down